Good morning, Cullman. Thank you for tuning in to Cullman Today. I'm your host, Cheyenne Sharp, and today is Tuesday, September 17th. We have a lot to look at in local news today, including information on the local Oktoberfest celebration, a casualty from a Sunday night crash, and Cullman High School special education students who are headed to the happiest place on earth. All this plus sports, weather, and more. But for now, let's dive into the top stories happening in Cullman today. A Cullman man died following a two-vehicle crash that occurred at approximately 5:50 p.m. on Sunday, September 15th in Blount County. Alabama state troopers identified the victim as David L. Davis, 63. Troopers said Davis was critically injured when the 2004 Ford F-150 he was driving collided head-on with a 2018 Mazda 3 driven by Adam Schottel, 20 of Gadsden. Schottel was also injured and airlifted to the University of Alabama at Birmingham Hospital for treatment. The passenger in the Ford, Cindy Davis, 60 of Cullman, was also injured and transported to St. Vincent's Blount Hospital for treatment. The crash occurred on U.S. Highway 278 near Pierman Road, approximately 4 miles east of Sneed in Blount County. Nothing further is available at this time as troopers with the Alabama Law Enforcement Agency's Highway Patrol Division continue to investigate. Next up, Cullman High School is offering its special education students a life-changing opportunity with an upcoming trip to Disney World. The adventure, designed to build essential life skills, will see students developing teamwork, responsibility, and real-world experience through a series of pre-trip and on-site activities. Students will be involved in planning their daily itineraries, learning how to navigate airports and amusement parks, and budgeting their money. In addition to these valuable lessons, the students will experience flying on an airplane, riding a bus, and managing queues, skills that will serve them well beyond the trip. Community support is crucial in making this trip happen for the students. Donations of any amount are welcome, and donors can submit a $100 deposit to secure a spot for a student, with the remaining balance to be covered later. Contributions can be made directly to Cullman High School Life Skills. For more information to donate or to sponsor a student, contact April Borden at 256-734-3923 or aborden@cullmancats.net. To finish out our top stories, the Hanceville City Council at its meeting on Thursday held a public hearing and vote on Ordinance 2024-5, which proposed amending the zoning ordinance to allow tattoo and body piercing facilities within the city limits. The meeting began with a public hearing on the proposed ordinance. This issue has sparked considerable conversation in previous meetings, and both supporters and opponents were in anticipation of the council's decision. Mayor Jimmy Sawyer called for the vote, and Councilman John Stamm voiced the only dissent. Following Stamm's vote, the rest of the council, excluding Kenneth Cornelius, who is absent, voted yes, effectively amending the zoning ordinance that barred tattoo shops from operating in the city limits of Hanceville. Now that we have the top stories out of the way, we're going to take a quick break before returning with sports.
What's in the magazine? October's peeking in. Oktoberfest in Cullman, let the fun begin. Heroes in our town, business all around. Recipes for sharing, joy everywhere found. Colonel Cullman cheers, history in our ears, community so bright, polka through the night, sports spotlight today, kids come out to play, fields and courts are buzzing in the autumn sway. Germans came to stay, crafts and brews on display, Cullman's heart is glowing in the polka way. Colonel Cullman cheers, history in our ears, community so bright, polka through the night.
Hello and welcome back. Now it's time to find out what's going on in the world of sports. Week 4 was a wet but successful one for nearly all of our local teams. In today's sports segment, let's take a look at each of the wins collected by local squads Friday night. Cullman was back on the road for a rainy regional matchup at Jasper Friday night, and despite the wet and windy conditions on the field, it was another classic battle between the Bearcats and the Vikings. Cullman trailed 20-7 at one point in the second half, but scored 14 unanswered points in the fourth to come up from behind and claim a 21-20 region win. After dismantling West Point in their region opener last week, the Fairview Aggies hit the road for another regional battle against Ardmore. The Aggies built a 14-0 lead in the first half and maintained control of the game in the second half to secure a 28-6 win over the Tigers. The Hanceville Bulldogs were on the road Friday night for a regional matchup at Carbon Hill, and after struggling in the first 3 games this fall, the Bulldogs returned home from Carbon Hill with their first win of the season. The 24-0 win over Carbon Hill is the first of head coach Levi Estes' tenure. After opening up region play with a 7-6 win over Fultondale last week, the Good Hope Raiders were back on the road Friday night for a rainy regional matchup at Haleyville. The score was knotted at 7 at halftime, but the Raiders outscored the Lions 20-0 in the second half to pull away with a 27-7 win. The Cold Springs Eagles were back on the road for a region matchup at Cleveland Friday night, and after more than 2 hours of lightning delays, the Eagles dominated the Panthers once they hit the field. Cold Springs jumped out to a 30-0 lead in the first half and cruised past Cleveland in the second half on its way to a 46-0 region win. After waiting through a couple of hours of weather delays, the Holly Pond Broncos hit the field for a homecoming matchup against Brindley Mountain as they celebrated the occasion with a dominant 54-8 win over the Lions. Vinemont fell in 4 overtimes on the road at Phil Campbell last week, and the Eagles found themselves in another tight game Friday night. However, the Eagles were able to finish the game strong and bounce back with a hard-fought 32-28 win at midfield. Addison traveled to Cherokee Friday night to take on the Indians in a region game, and if Addison was expecting to play the Cherokee teams of old, they were in for a surprise. This Indian team was much better than the years past, but the Bulldogs were able to wear them down and collect a 39-6 win. The Meek Tigers were back on the road Friday night for a regional matchup at Phillips Bear Creek, and after falling to Hackleburg last week, the Tigers bounced back with an impressive 37-8 win over the Bears. That covers sports for today, but make sure to check with the Cullman Tribune each day for the latest in sports coverage from across the area. We'll be back after this message. Hello and welcome back to Cullman Today. Now it's time to speed things up with the news rundown. 4 stories in under 4 minutes. This weekend, the community got to celebrate the ribbon cutting of Cullman Regional Medical Center Medical Group's new pediatric clinic. Located in Professional Office Building 3 on Cullman Regional's main campus, their pediatric providers specialize in caring for patients under 18 years of age. The team of 3 dedicated doctors and their staff are continuously working to ensure the community's youngest members receive the specialized care they need right here at home. For the first time, St. Andrew's Church will host a handmade quilt auction and bake sale featuring new, old, antique, and purchased quilts alongside yummy home-baked goods on Saturday, September 21st. The quilt and bake sale will go on from 9 a.m. until 1 p.m. and the auction will begin at 2. A sack lunch will be available for purchase for $5, including a hot dog, chips, dessert, and a drink. All of the sale and auctions proceeds will go to pay down the church building debt fund. Contact Hazel Rule at 256-339-2224 or Carol McCoy at 256-841-2977 for any questions or interest in involvement. The Wallace State Community College Student Wellness Center has new and extended hours for the fall semester. It's now open until 9 p.m. Monday through Thursday and from 3 to 7 p.m. on Sunday. The Wellness Center and all of its amenities are free for students and employees of Wallace State with a valid Wallace State ID, and community members may join for a fee. Learn more about membership, amenities, and fees at wallacestate.edu. Cullman County is a small town filled with rich German history woven into the very fabric of its culture. Annually, the town gathers to celebrate with an Oktoberfest, an over-the-top 3-day fest of traditional German wear, food, and pastimes, meant to bring the past to the present and honor those who made the town what it is today. The Bavarian Blowout with Stein hoisting, brat eating contest, and other German games begins on October 3rd at Cullman's Fest Hall and will take over Cullman's downtown and Depot Park area until Saturday, October 5th. Now for a quick break before we look at the weather ahead and pay our respects with obituaries. I'll be back after this message. Welcome back. Let's take a moment to pause and remember those who have lost their lives this week as we turn to obituaries. James Thomas Hayes. James Thomas Hayes, 79 of Cullman, passed from this life on Friday, September 13th. A memorial service for Mr. Hayes is Wednesday, September 18th at 5 p.m. at Cullman Funeral Home Chapel. Visitation is from 3 to 5 p.m. at the chapel. Martha Lee Doherty. Martha Lee Doherty, 76 of Cullman, passed away at her residence on Saturday, September 14th. Funeral services for Mrs. Doherty will be at 11 a.m. on Thursday, September 19th at Hanceville Funeral Home Chapel. Burial will follow the service at Shelton Grove Cemetery. Visitation will be prior to the service from 10 to 11 a.m. at Hanceville Funeral Home. Jerry William Billy Parrish Jr. Jerry William Billy Parrish Jr., 60 of Hanceville, passed away at his residence on Sunday, September 15th. A celebration of life service for Mr. Parrish will be at 5 p.m. on Friday, September 20th at Hanceville Funeral Home Chapel. Visitation will be prior to the service from 3 to 5 p.m. at Hanceville Funeral Home. James Irvin Chumley. James Irvin Chumley, also affectionately known as Pawpaw, was called to his heavenly home on Friday, September 13th at Grandview Hospital. The viewing will be at Moss Funeral Home on Tuesday, September 17th from 6 to 9 p.m. The service will be held Wednesday, September 18th at 2 p.m. with graveside service at Beech Grove Cemetery. That finishes up obituaries for today. Our thoughts and prayers go out to their friends and families. Now, let's take a look at today's weather forecast. Today we'll have patchy fog before 8 a.m., otherwise sunny with a high near 83. Tonight should have patchy fog after midnight, otherwise mostly clear with a low of around 59. Tomorrow is set to have patchy fog between 7 and 8 a.m., otherwise sunny with a high near 83. And tomorrow night is set to be mostly clear with a low of around 61. And that concludes another edition of Cullman Today. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back bright and early tomorrow morning at 6:30 a.m. I'm Cheyenne Sharp with Cullman Today, wishing you a terrific Tuesday, Cullman.